Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will return to JTG Daugherty Racing next year. Jimmie Johnson, he's been talked to about potentially returning to NASCAR. But before we cover those two things, just a pre-update, I guess. It's not an official word, I don't think. But I will provide you an update Friday or Saturday morning about what I'm going to do this weekend. This weekend I will be at all 3 races for the Talladega weekend, and it's something I've never done before. Never at Talladega, never at any other track, something I've never done before that I get the opportunity to do. Very, very looking forward to sharing it with you, the internet, and also very excited to do it. So, I'm really excited about this weekend at Talladega. I'm really excited. I'll tell you tomorrow or Saturday, but first of all, we got some news today that we've got to talk about, and then we can talk about Talladega afterwards, okay? I'm so excited. But Ricky Stenhouse Jr., of course, has driven for JTG Daugherty Racing for 2 years now. He used to drive for Roush Fenway Racing, won a couple of races with Roush Fenway Racing in 2017, once at Daytona, once at Talladega. So Stenhouse has won in the Cup Series. He's proven that he can win and that he's actually a decent driver. Now, he has become the meme of NASCAR as Ricky Stenhouse Jr., yes. But he's actually having a pretty decent season. He had a hot start to the season this year, was up in the playoffs on points for the first third of the season, I want to say. But then, they fell off a bit. They weren't running as good, but he's still having a better season than last year, and he's having a decent season this year. And he currently sits 21st in the standings with an average finish of 18.7 versus last year's 22.6. So the 47 team has improved tremendously. Now, a few weeks ago, maybe a little bit over a month ago, it was announced that JTG Daugherty Racing would be reducing back to a one-car team. They used to be a one-car team 5 or 6 years ago, but decided to expand to a two-car team. And they are reducing back down to a one-car team. So the question was, who's going to be in that seat? Is it going to be Stenhouse, Priest, other? The answer is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. He will be in that car. Of course, this year, actually, they have a two-car team, but only one of them has a charter, which is the 47. The 37, which is Ryan Priest, has been running on an open he's been an open car all year long. There was a chance he didn't qualify for the Daytona 500, but he did just that. But Priest was having a good season to start off the year. But unfortunately, for Priest, Stenhouse gets the seat. And honestly, I can understand that. Now, I guarantee you there's going to be someone in the comments, someone's going to be thinking, oh, Stenhouse, he's Stenhouse. He just wrecks all the time. Now, a few years ago, that was true. He triggered a lot of big wrecks. He caused a lot of big wrecks because of his aggression. But he's matured a bit over the past 3 or 4 years. He's actually done pretty decent. He's had some really good runs. He's actually been doing a pretty good job of not wrecking himself, I guess, and other people. He's done a pretty decent job this year, as I said, with his numbers. Really good year compared to last year for JTG Daugherty Racing going into the next-gen car. They're going to want an experienced driver, I'm sure. Got someone who's been able to win, someone who's been able to do a bunch of stuff. So I would have loved to see Ryan Priest in this ride, and it would have been awesome for him. And I think Ryan Priest does deserve a cup ride, a decent cup ride. But I fully understand why JTG Daugherty is keeping Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in their car, in that one single car. It's a good decision. He's a veteran. He's a winner. And he's shown a step of improvement from 2020 to 2021. I think JTG Daugherty Racing has seen that, and they've said, you know what? Yeah, let's keep him. So 1-year extension for Stenhouse. Once again, I think it's a really good decision. He's got a good opportunity to win this weekend at one of his best racetracks, Talladega. He's got a top 5. I think he got a runner-up at Bristol Dirt this year. So he's actually had some good runs this year that I feel like have been just kind of overlooked. But JTG Daugherty as a whole looked really good at the beginning of the year. They've kind of fallen off a bit, but Stenhouse, Priest have both been significant in that seat. Came down to one, and that's just how the business works. As for Priest, there's just not a lot of open cup rides right now. You look at the big teams, at least, there's not a lot of open rides. Even some of the the midfield teams don't have a lot of rides available. Some like the guys who are like on the border of making the playoffs. 2311's locked up. The Wood brothers are locked up. Now JTG Daugherty's locked up. Who else is in that kind of bubble area? I don't know, but it's unfortunate for Preece for sure. But if I were Ryan Preece and I couldn't get a Cup ride, I would definitely look at a top Xfinity or Trucks ride. It has proven to be a great move for John Hunter Nemechek. John Hunter Nemechek, of course, was a rookie last year in the NASCAR Cup Series with Front Row Motorsports, and he ended up leaving them to go to the Truck Series in a top ride at Kyle Busch Motorsports, and he has been tearing it up in the Truck Series, has a few wins this year, was the #1 seed going into the playoffs, so maybe Preece could explore that option, whether it be Trucks or Xfinity. Looking at the Xfinity Series side of things, you got the 22 available next year in the Xfinity Series because Austin Cindric is being promoted to Cup. One or two of the Joe Gibbs rides are going to be open. One of them is going to be taken by Ty Gibbs, let's be honest. But if there's a second one, Harrison Burton is leaving and Daniel Hemrick is leaving. So I think that potentially one of those cars could potentially go to Gibbs, but then another one, Preece could look at that. So I think those are the options for Ryan Preece right now. If he cannot get a Cup ride, I think he should look at a top-tier Xfinity or Trucks ride to kind of build his resume, show what he can do in top equipment. We saw what he could do in equipment this year when he won the Trucks race at Nashville. So I really like Ryan Preece. I think he is a good driver, and if he's given the right opportunity, I think he could make some noise in the NASCAR Cup Series, so I hope he gets that opportunity. Now to the next news. I don't know much about IndyCar. I'm going to be honest with you. I really don't. I watched some races this year, and yeah, it's interesting and stuff. It's been fun to watch every once in a while. But the thing that has caught my eye, obviously, I'm a NASCAR fan, Hendrick Motorsports fan. Jimmie Johnson has moved over to IndyCar this season. He ran the road courses this year. Didn't have, a tremendous, like, oh my gosh, he's so good season. But it was a learning season for Jimmie Johnson. I think his best finish was 16th or 17th. So once again, not the greatest finish, but he got to learn. He got to learn how to drive an IndyCar, all that stuff. And there was a report today from Adam Stern himself. Yes, Stern himself. And it says, Jimmie Johnson says he has had some NASCAR teams reach out about possible interest in driving, whether in a one-off or full-time, but he doesn't want to do full-time, and even a one-off is unclear currently because his 2022 schedule is looking likely to be full of IndyCar/IMSA. Of course, outside of IndyCar, Jimmie Johnson is running some IMSA races, the 24 Hours of Daytona, something at I can't remember where. I want to say Laguna Seca maybe. But yeah, he's run at a few of the IMSA races this year, so that was his schedule this year, IndyCar and IMSA. And my question is, which teams are trying to contact Jimmie Johnson? It's obviously probably not a big team. Hendrick Motorsports, they can't have 5 cars because of the charter system, but they're probably not going to say, hey, Jimmy, we're going to boot Alex Bowman out of the 48 for one race so you can drive the 48 again. But that is a question I have. Which car would it be? Which team? I would think more of maybe Aspire Motorsports maybe, or a Colleague Racing maybe. Maybe they were trying to get him in a car or something. But I'm curious to which teams. I don't think Jimmie Johnson would accept a small, super small team or anything, or a team that's going to run 35th to 40th every week. But I think if the right opportunity presented itself, then maybe. I don't see him coming back for more than a one-off, though. I don't see him coming back full-time, part-time. I think the most it would be a one-off. And the best opportunity, in my opinion, to see that would be the Coca-Cola 600, and here's why. Jimmie Johnson has been in talks to run the Indy 500 next year, and of course the big thing is the Indy 500 is in the morning, the late morning, early afternoon at Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and then at night is the Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motor Speedway in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we have seen drivers attempt to do the double. The double, of course, running all 500 miles of the Indy 500, flying down to Charlotte and running all 600 miles of the Coke 600. And honestly, I could see Jimmie Johnson doing that. I could very well see him doing that. I don't know how he would do at IndyCar on an oval. He has yet to race on an oval in IndyCar. He's done some testing this year at Texas Motor Speedway. I think he was supposed to do some at Homestead, Miami, but he might have a race under his belt by that point at Texas, so he will get some time to learn. And of course, there are weeks of practices for the Indy 500 on the oval beforehand, so he will get some experience, some time to learn the Indianapolis oval in an Indy car. Much different than a NASCAR stock car when driving that oval. It's a much lighter car. It goes much faster than a Cup Series car, so it'll be a completely new experience for Johnson. Of course, Johnson, tons of great moments at Indianapolis, 4 Brickyard 400 wins, but in the IndyCar, it's going to be different. It's going to be a challenge for him. And honestly, even if he were to learn it, I could see him wanting to challenge himself personally. Jimmie Johnson, as you guys know, he's just a pure athlete. I mean, obviously the Cup Series for, 17, 18 years, and then outside of that, he runs marathons. He ran in the Boston Marathon a few years ago. So I could see Jimmie Johnson potentially viewing this as a personal challenge. Can I complete 1,100 miles in one day in 2 different cars? What would it be like? Go run the 500 in the morning, the 600 at night, depending on the team, but could he complete the double? Could he complete all 1,100 miles? I don't know if he could. I'm not Jimmie Johnson. Jimmie Johnson knows what he can do, but I think that would be the best opportunity. But at the same time, Jimmie Johnson, he would have to take time to kind of learn the next-gen car. He doesn't know that because obviously he drove in a Gen 6 at the end of his career. IndyCar, he's going to take all the practice he needs in that to learn the oval, and he's doing that potentially full-time next year. So I really don't know if he'd do it, but if it were to happen, I'd say that's the best opportunity. That's just my opinion, though. But yeah, that's the big news stories for today. So let me know what you guys think. Is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. the right choice for JTG Daugherty Racing? Will Jimmie Johnson come back to the NASCAR Cup Series? 2 big questions for today's episode of YouTube stuff. But once again, really excited for Talladega this weekend. I will let you guys know about that tomorrow or Saturday. Really excited for that. But have a great rest of your day. Like, subscribe, share, all that stuff. Woo NASCAR, and I guess technically woo IndyCar.